Martesha Johnson for Public Defender.
This is Rosetta Miller-Perry, publisher of the Tennessee Tribune. Today, we will be talking to Martesha Johnson. She's an attorney with the Public Defender's Office. And I have some very good questions for her.
Awesome.
And the first question is, define the role of the Public Defender's Office.
Yes, ma'am. The Public Defender's Office is responsible for representing people who cannot afford to hire an attorney of their own when they are charged with a crime. So anyone who is arrested or cited and charged with an offense in Nashville, if they cannot afford to hire their own attorney, our office is appointed to represent them.
And why do you want to head up this office?
I want to be the public defender because I love the opportunity that I have to stand with people and share their stories, give voice to their struggles, and help them navigate a criminal justice system that's not always friendly to people. I am from Nashville. Criminal justice and working in the community is very close to my heart. And I've been in our office for 9 years. I've been able to work in various roles in the office and the court system. And earlier this month, when Dawn Diener announced that she would no longer run for public defender or serve in this role, I felt it my duty to step up and run for office because I think I would be the best person to lead our office going forward.
Okay, so for 9 years, can you tell me what has been your greatest accomplishment?
Wow. My greatest accomplishment really has come over and over again, and it has been the many times that I have been able to help somebody. Now, that doesn't always mean that I've been able to win their case, but I've been able to help them tell their story. I've been able to help them get treatment for addiction, or help someone in a sentencing hearing when they just needed someone to tell their story, to advocate for them, to stand up for them in court. And that's what I've been privileged to do. I've fought for thousands of people, and those stories, those struggles, and standing with people have been my greatest triumph. I've also, in the office, been able to mentor a lot of young lawyers. Most recently, I established or helped establish a training program in our office, and we recently launched that 3-week training program for new attorneys in our office.
Okay, here in Nashville, this city is very racist when it comes to hiring African Americans in our city offices. So I would like to know, how diverse is your office?
Well, our office has an African American deputy public defender. We also have many diverse lawyers in our office. You know, we are definitely not perfect in that area. We have been very concerned with recruiting diverse candidates, and every single one of our classes of new attorneys have included diverse lawyers. Every single year that we've hired people, we have had attorneys of color, LGBTQ attorneys, attorneys from all over the country and various socioeconomic status. We've been very devoted to our recruiting efforts and making sure that we are addressing the diversity challenges that come with law firms, city government. We are aware of those challenges and trying to enhance our recruiting in those areas. We've been targeting Howard Law School. We direct our attention to diverse candidates at public interest job fairs across the country, and we've sort of devoted our new route for lawyers in our office and staff, all of our investigators, social work team, intake. We've been very committed to diversity in all of those areas.
How many African American male attorneys do you have in your office?
Right now, we only have one African American male attorney.
How many African American female attorneys?
We have trying to count everybody in my brain. We have 3.
3.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your total number of attorneys in your office?
I believe our number is 43.
43.
Yes.
And you have 1 African American male.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a serious problem with that. How do you plan to change that? And the reason I have a serious problem, that was the same situation before Glenn Funk went into his office. When I talked to both men who were running for that office, Glenn Funk said there were African American males that he could hire. The other candidate said he could not find African American qualified black male attorneys anywhere, but he would hope to go across the country and find maybe 1 or 2. And I found it very strange when Glenn Funk got into office. He now has an office full of qualified African American attorneys. So now, if you were in the position, or if you are in that position in the future, how could you change that in the same way that Glenn Funk has made us so proud that he could find qualified African American males in his office?
I believe the number 1 way to do that is to aggressively focus on our hiring need. And I agree with you. We have a hiring need for African American male attorneys as public defenders. It is not for lack of want in our office. I have served on our hiring team and recruiting efforts. We do want qualified African American men to work in our office. I'm passionate about that. I believe the way we change that is to make our focus aggressive diversity hiring. I'm committed to doing that. I have been the voice of doing that now. The other lawyers in my office are willing to partner in that area. Our male attorney, who is black, has been very vocal about this as well. And so it's something that we are committed to changing. I'm not here to tell you that I don't think there are qualified African American attorneys in the country. There are thousands of them. It is recruiting them to come to Nashville, recruiting them to do public defender work in the South, and making sure that we are committed to recruiting and retaining diverse candidates. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. I think that is what triggered the success for Glenn Funk, that he was passionate about diversity hiring, and when he came into office, he executed that passion, and that's something that I'm committed to doing as well.
I've been trying to find out for years, what is a qualified African American attorney? No one has ever said to me, I'm going to hire a qualified white attorney. So they always say I'm going to hire a white attorney. But when it comes to African American, they say qualified. Can you tell me what's the difference?
Well, I don't think the qualification piece for me, when I say that, I mean someone who has completed the education requirements to be an attorney, who has been licensed as an attorney, and who has a commitment to doing public defender work in the South in Nashville. Someone who is passionate about representing poor people in the criminal justice system. That is what my definition of qualification is. They have completed law school, they have been licensed, and they are committed to doing our work.
So how will you recruit young black men to consider law school and then work in your office?
Yes, ma'am. For me, I think a lot of partnerships start before they get in law school. So it's high schools, middle schools, encouraging young people to go to law school, become public defenders, and continuing to partner and mentor people while they are in law school. We already attend quite a few of the public interest job fairs across the country. We have more targeted our recruiting efforts by going to Texas Southern Law School, which is a historically black law school in Texas. We've gone to Howard, and we have been making those efforts to make our recruiting efforts very consistent with our diversity desires. So I think it starts before you get to law school, though. You know, when you get in law school, you have a lot of pressures of deciding what you want to do afterwards. So I think some of our partnerships, some of our recruiting efforts start by encouraging people to be invested in public defense and go to law school and become public defenders after that.
Okay. Is the current criminal justice system aware of the unequal treatment of minorities and what is being done to correct it?
That is a great question. Is the system aware of the unequal treatment? You know, I think the system is aware. I think that it's certainly not a Nashville public defender only issue. It's not just something that's related to our office. We are not the only entity that's saying there are some unequal practices, some unequal treatment of people in the criminal justice system. So because of these national conversations, I would definitely say I think people are aware. I think the second part of your question was, what are we doing to address it?
Yes.
From our perspective, we are standing up for our clients' rights. We're speaking up about a lot of the things that are on the forefront of the country, so mass incarceration, making sure or arguing that the system should be more restorative. We should start to include more restorative justice rather than, you know, the automatic penalty being jail. In some instances, jail is inevitable. But we could be focused some on restorative practices, which are hopefully going to be working very well in our juvenile court system with Judge Calloway rolling those out. That's something we could do on the adult side. Restorative practices, focusing on treatment options. You know, one of the large disparities comes in the form of mental illness. Because we don't have a lot of funding going towards mental illness, then sometimes the answer to that is putting people in jail who are mentally ill. And so what we are doing is becoming a more active voice, going into our communities. We launched the Defend Nashville initiative to do just that, to go into the communities, let them know about the things we are trying to do, about the areas of the criminal justice system that they should be invested in, and asking for community partners and empowering people to come over to the courthouse, watch what's going on, be a part of the discussion about criminal justice and our reform efforts. And so we're definitely speaking up. People across the country are speaking up. So it is my hope that things are on the path to changing.
All right. What are your thoughts on the current money bail system, and explain how it impacts the poor and minority communities?
Yes, ma'am. So I'll answer that impact question first. When a person is arrested and charged, they are set a bond, oftentimes a money bail, and a person can either be given some sort of pretrial release, they can be released without bond, they can have to pay the full amount of a money bail, or they can pay a down payment on what's called a surety bond, and a bail bondsman helps them get out of custody. The problem for so many of the client population that I represent is they cannot afford to make a bail, a money bail, in any amount. So what happens, and why this impacts our communities, our client communities the most, is you can't make bond, so you are sitting in jail while you are waiting to go to court on your cases. And while you're sitting in jail, you know, life happens to you. You lose your job, you lose where you're living, so many setbacks. And so the biggest impact of money bail is people who can't afford it lose everything while waiting just to go to court. And then that sort of conflicts with this idea of the presumption of innocence. When you are when you are charged with a crime, you are presumed innocent. Yet losing everything you have and sitting in custody waiting to go to court sometimes makes it feel like you're not really presumed innocent. And so that's the large piece. Our clients are affected far more greatly by money bail because they can't afford to make it. And so what we have been pushing for are there other ways that we can ensure that people come to court? Because that's what bail is designed for, to make sure that when you have received notice of your charges, you are going to show back up to court. So are there other ways to ensure that besides making someone pay money that they don't have? And so that's the largest impact. What was the other part of your question?
how it impacts the poor and minority community.
Right, so that's how it affects the poor. And a lot of our clients, the great percentage of our clients are people of color.
Okay. Okay. Now, what can your office do to help reduce the crime that we are seeing in this city? You know, for a long time, we always thought all of the crime, or most of it, was committed in Memphis. Now it looks like there's a lot of crime in Nashville. We don't know where it's coming from. So, how do we deal with this? Because it's getting worse instead of better.
I think that a lot of things are related to an influx of crime. So, and when I say a lot of things are related, I think you have affordable housing, you have education disparities, you have low-income families, people who have sort of lost hope. And when you put all of that in this sort of pot and it bubbles all up, then it contributes, I think, to the increase of crime. How can we reduce the crime rate? I think it is by talking about the things that lead us to an influx of crime. I think it's being really dedicated and committed to affordable housing. When people don't have a place to live and when they're being displaced, that leads to that hopelessness I was talking about. Making sure that we are being as driven towards growth. Everybody's happy that Nashville is booming. But we also have to be as committed to making sure all of our residents of Nashville are experiencing growth in jobs, in housing, in education. When our education disparities exist, people of color drop out of school. I was at the NOAA large town hall a couple of weeks ago, and one of the percentages that they talked about were when black males drop out of school, they are way more likely to enter the prison system. So trying to figure out ways to keep them in school, keep them at home, keep our families with jobs, all go together in making us feel like whole residents of Nashville. And I think when we address all of these areas, we also address the crime. Because it's not just this singular issue of crime rate. It includes everything. Everything is a part of that.
Right. Okay, now, why should we vote for you?
You should vote for me because you will not find another person who is more passionate about being a public defender in Nashville. As I stated early on, this is my hometown. I love Nashville. I grew up here. I really believe there are only a few degrees of separation between myself and my clients. I was raised by a single mother. She's wonderful and very strong. But I learned and was able to see, you know, how those struggles that she experienced affected our family. I'm fortunate that I did not enter the system, that I had her there to push me to do great things, to succeed in school. But I know that it's but for a few things, I could be just like my clients. Because of that, I have a great respect for the work I do, and I have a great respect for dignity and humility of people. I love being a public defender. I love standing with people and arguing for their fair treatment and for a justice system that is fair and equal to all. And so because of that, because of my passion, because of my commitment to the community and my dedication to this work, I think that it makes me the best candidate for public defender.
Okay. So how will you be different than your predecessor?
I think I'll be different because I can take our current community initiatives to, I think, different routes and I would say higher grounds. We've been doing well starting with Defend Nashville. That's our community initiative. But I think phase 2 of Defend Nashville means we are spending very much so quality time in the communities where our clients come from. We need to be devoted to being community partners in those areas, listening to the struggles of our clients, and letting them see us more than when we're at the courthouse. So I think in that area, I want to take our Defend Nashville initiative to another area. I want to be more in the community, more partnering with community agencies that help our clients. I think Dawn has taken our office in a great direction. I think, you know, it's time for me to carry us on to higher ground.
So how can we keep up with you? Do you have social media?
Yes, ma'am.
What type of information do you have that you can give to us so that we can give to our readers?
Sure. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Martesha Johnson for Public Defender. Instagram and Twitter is at MJ4PD. And my website is www.marteshajohnson.com. It's MARTESHA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good interview.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to talking to you in a few months.
Thank you.